Welcome to Goldboys Live, presented by Pickett Sports Sleeper Picks Hall of Fame bets. Brad Thomas and Josh.
Sure.
Boys, we can react from Monday Night Football. We had two games, kind of ho hum games. We got week 2 to look forward to, MLB card, the final week of the MLB season somehow. Brad, Josh, boys, what's going on?
Hanging out, just like Beetlejuice, just hanging around, waiting for another thing to bet on. It feels funny, like, now we're finally done with the dog days of summer where we're like, not having to scratch and claw to find things to bet on. It's like a good feeling. Like I place bets, even though there's no game going on. I place bets for something that I know is happening in a couple days. I get excited about watching the line movement. It's a good time for sports.
Yeah, I'm ditto. I nothing to add to that. I mean, I already get to look at NFL Week 4 lines, even on Sunday, much less like what here we are on Tuesday
Yeah.
talking about it. So yeah, with that going on, plus obviously all this baseball stuff, there's plenty that I'm betting on as well.
Any takeaways from last night? Anything you learned about any of the four teams?
I think that two takeaways. First, I think it's funny that people put hard-earned money on the Bucks last night.
Sharp money
For
too. A lot of
sharp
pro
money.
money, man. People, yeah.
For me, it was Eagles or pass, especially when the line dropped so low. I was so close to taking Eagles. I ended up wanting a little bit better and took them to win every quarter, which was a bad loss. But my second takeaway was the Buccaneers aren't going to be as bad as I thought they were going to be. We're 3 games in now, and I was ready to write them off as like a top 5 draft pick team, but I actually think they have a legitimate shot to stay competitive in the division.
Yeah, I actually kind of agree with that takeaway because I started to be like, oh, Bucks getting exposed here, but not really on defense. I don't
Yeah.
think they got exposed quite as much. I mean, if the butt the butt push wasn't just an unstoppable 1.5 yards every single time, it might look a little bit different with some of those conversions and whatever. But yeah, the Eagles inside of a 2 to go is going to be guaranteed. So I'm not going to like get too mad at the Bucks for getting beat in those instances. Were there certain ways they could have won? Sure. Is Baker who we thought he was? Yeah, I think he's about exactly where we thought he was. Maybe like 200 yards a game, an interception, maybe like 15, 20 yards rushing. And you kind of go from there with him. But that defense is nice enough that I don't think they got exposed too much. As far as the other game goes, I mean, Matt Stafford, to me, was the reason they lost that game. It started right away with the way that he was just firing missiles behind dudes, never forcing guys to make really nice catches to even get a single reception. Once that happened, it was like, well, if you can't move the ball against this team, like your defense is only going to hold so long before Burrow and Chase and apparently not T. Higgins, but others will get involved and be good enough to like get themselves down the field and get the 20 points essentially that they got. If you can only get 9 because you're throwing balls behind your dudes and you're supposed to be the strength of the team, third in passing coming into the week. Yeah, it's not a good look for the Rams moving forward either.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it was
thought
bad
Philly for the
luck.
first time they started to look like the Eagles. The first two games, not I don't want to say if they sleptwalk through the games, but it just didn't look like the dominant team we saw last year. Last night was a little more like the Eagles we expected.
Yeah.
They really just smothered Tampa. Tampa couldn't move the ball at all. Tampa basically had like 100 yards of offense, basically in non-garbage time. So
Yep.
we can look at these division odds as they've adjusted. But that was one of my takeaways. Philly's starting to look like Philly. The Rams are better than I thought on defense, but man, Stafford and that offensive line is not a good combination. He's older, he's been injury prone. That offensive line, he's going to get beat up. Like
Bad.
I'd have a hard time seeing him make it through whatever 16, 17 week, 17 game season. So since he wasn't overly impressive, I was surprised because I bet Burrow under completions, figuring he wouldn't be effective, and he was not effective early. But LA was just giving him these little checkdowns where it was like he clearly wasn't 100%. I thought they'd challenge him more. And look, since he saves their season, so to speak, at 0-3, you're pretty much dead. So they're 1-2. Let's look at the divisions because I think it's interesting. You get another game under here and you see how these adjust. We'll just start with the NFC South just because Brad said you think Tampa can still be competitive in that division. Saints are plus 125 to win the South. Falcons are plus 165. Tampa's plus 320. Carolina's at 35 to 1. Is plus 320 enough for you to bet it?
Um,
400 on FanDuel.
400 on fan. Good job. You always shop around, use Pickett.
um, Probably. Yeah, like the Panthers are toast. The Saints, it depends on what's going on with Carr's injury. But man, do I trust Jameis against a Bucks led defense? No, maybe not even against a Falcons defense. And then I don't know. I'm not sold on the Falcons. Like I think they
Or
were. I
should
just
he
think
be?
they were like overvalued all
Yeah.
season. You know,
Quarterback
so
stinks. We knew the quarterback stunk. That was one that didn't make sense.
So how long do they think Carr's out with this sprain?
He's week to week.
He's week to week. Okay, so it's not like he's just out 4 to 6 no matter what. It's like week to week. He could be back in like 3 weeks or something.
Yeah,
Like,
it's vague.
I mean, to me, you're going to see a lot of what you saw as soon as he went out. It was like a tale of 2 games within the Packers and the Saints this week. Like, I mean, maybe there was a bit of an emotional letdown, whatever, maybe because that defense just started getting exposed a bit more. But the defense is so for real that with Carr back there at like his floor being like a game manager, right? Like that was a pretty good situation for them, and maybe you feel more comfortable with them winning the division. I personally, if you were going to go with a way to like hedge this division, like for me already having money on the Falcons right now, 4-1 for the Bucks as well is like, okay, now I have 2 teams at 4-1 to win the division. I just need the Saints to falter a little bit, despite knowing that they're, to me, clearly the best team in the division.
Is it a bet? Is it enough for you, Brad? At 4-1? Not enough for me.
Not enough.
I get it.
Me.
If I had to bet it,
like if you said you had to place a bet on this, then yes, but not enough for me.
Can we talk about the most fun division actually with the way that the odds are updated, which is the AFC North?
Go for it.
That Bengals win, and the fact that obviously Chubb is out, the Ravens still look a bit sketchy. It seems like that one's a bit more up in the air, and you get plus odds for all of these really good teams. So, I mean, even the Steelers are down to 370, at least on FanDuel. That's equal with the Bengals.
Read the FanDuel odds because I have DraftKings in front of me. And of course, Tone Stamp chiming in. The Bengals are back. And of course, anyone in their chats, questions, comments, we'd love to hear from you.
Tony's riding off of the high of last night where he was down like 70 points going into his fantasy week, and he won the game. And that Tutu Atwell touchdown got it for him. So congrats to you.
Oh, nice.
AFC North plus 165 for the Ravens as the favorite. Browns plus 240. Bengals 370, and the Steelers also plus 370.
Read those one more time.
Ravens plus 165.
Yep.
Browns plus 240. Bengals plus 370. Also plus 370, the Steelers.
That would be Browns plus 240 for me. I think
Browns
Watson,
for sure.
Watson finally looked. I think, unless I'm forgetting something, that was pretty clearly the best game he played for Cleveland. As a Browns, the first time we've seen him look good in a few years now. That defense is unbelievable.
Yes.
You're missing Chubb, but like running back's one of those things you can get around. I just think I would take Cleveland. They already beat Cincy head to head. I would take Cleveland plus 240.
I like the Browns too. Like they tick a lot of boxes defensively, but what's also funny is like we're eliminating the Ravens. What are they, plus 165? You're gonna eliminate the Ravens here, right? Why? Because it's clear Monken does not trust Lamar Jackson. There were so many instances where they could have put the game away by making 3 to 5 yard passes. I know it was a funky one game, but it was just a lot of lack of trust in your past MVP quarterback.
I agree with that, but like Tucker missed a field goal that would have won it. Granted, it was 61 yards, but everyone expected him to make it, and they got a bad no call on the pass interference in overtime.
They did.
Guy got mugged. So I mean,
I'm not saying the Ravens didn't deserve to win, but there were so many situations where they could have gotten better field goal position.
Yeah,
they could have tried to put the game away, and they were calling plays that that I thought were pretty terrible. Not terrible play calling, but kind of safe to guard from any mistakes. Like this is not college football where you have some 18-year-old kid some 19-year-old kid who's on a scholarship. This is the NFL. And if you are playing to not make mistakes with your very handsomely paid quarterback, you're doing something wrong. Like that's why you lose games, when you play not to make mistakes at the end.
Yep, and they've had a habit in the past few years of losing games in the fourth quarter, games where they've had leads and stuff. So that was a bad loss. But I wouldn't jump off the Ravens. If you told me right now, and I think the best price for the Ravens to win the division plus 195 at DraftKings, like that's a reasonable bet. I would just take a little longer odds, like FanDuel is plus 240 on the Browns. You can't rule Cincinnati out. The talent is there. They do have a tough schedule, and they have a banged up quarterback, so that's a no bet for me. And I just don't think the Steelers have the upside for me. Should we get to the East?
With that defense, but I mean, the only other thing I would add is like the sucks that Chubb is out, but if you want for the AFC champion or like AFC 1 seed for the Browns, like might be a good time to get ahead of it if Deshaun Watson's only on the uptick, because that defense is so freaking nasty.
Yeah.
I mean, they're better than the Jags. I think we can easily say that at this point, right? I think they're like up there with the Bills in terms of how they could compete for that conference. So might be worth it while it's still at like 12-1 for them to win the AFC.
Yeah. How about
Well,
NFC East? Eagles now -155. This was a toss-up before these week 3 games, but Dallas with a loss where we expected them to win, and then Philly wins. So Philly -155, Dallas +155, then Washington 18-1, Giants 35-1. Would you take Dallas or would you take Philly? Is either one worth a bet? And let's just say you have to bet it. Which way are you going?
I
I think I'd take the Dallas.
That's what I was gonna say. I feel like I have to take the plus money with Dallas. Like their pass rush is too disruptive. They're a good team. I think if they play head to head, it's more of a coin flip than people probably would realize. Wow, but they Stephon Gilmore looked old in that game.
Diggs is a big loss. They were missing some offensive linemen. Like you'll get the offensive lineman back, you're not getting Diggs back.
Yeah, not getting Diggs back. But what was crazy was like I could be wrong, but I didn't realize Diggs did he trail the best wide receiver all game? Like I thought he just played on one side, but it felt like Stephon Gilmore was like trailing the best wide receiver and like getting toasted by Marquise Brown.
Yeah, it happened late in the week too, the Diggs injury. So it's not like you had time to really game plan around it. It was like Thursday afternoon too. That was a bit of a shocker. Like Trayvon Diggs out for
and most of the dudes aren't practicing later in the day.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you believed in the Dallas Cowboys like strongly before that game, I mean, I think you still kind of ride with them at the plus money now and take the fade that's come their way. But there's not a bet in that division right now for me. It's Philly -155. There's just no value.
Even after that game, I think Cowboys are still. Even after the game, I think Cowboys are second in defensive success rate, which that was pretty bad defensive display for them. Mike McCarthy, man, we talked about his comments where he said he's going to run the damn ball. We talked about that preseason, right? Wow, talking about sticking to your guns there, huh?
Man.
But what makes it even more poetic was he sticks to his guns and then he finally throws the ball and Dak throws an interception. Like it's like,
not only did he throw an interception, it's like Arizona, the whole team is fighting over who was getting intercepted. It was nothing but Cardinals. It was so bad. It was really bad.
It was so bad.
You guys have you guys taken a look at week 2? We got, I mean,
4.
Maybe the game of the season is at least so far. Bills now laying 2.5 in Miami. There's some threes -120. I'd be inclined, like I know it's recency bias. I'd be inclined to take the 3 with Miami, even though it's -120. I think Miami will get bet. I think this will close 1.5 or 2. Miami gets a break here. They play in Buffalo, but it's not going to be bad weather. So it's not like you're playing November, December where it's cold, it's windy. I think they can expose Buffalo's secondary a little bit. I like Miami plus the points. There's a bunch of interesting games. Have you guys looked at first that game and any other games that have caught your eye for week?
There's so many good games, like the London game. That's a good one. Like the Jags are laying Falcons, 3. Right? And they're laying 3. And I feel like if the Jags didn't get embarrassed, we probably would have been looking at 4, maybe 4.5.
I don't think so. I think these teams are dead even. I don't know how you get to 3. I think the 3 is high. I think these are both like
I'm not betting the Jaguars. I'm just saying I think that the line is down a little because of the game.
If they had come off a win like they should
have. Yeah. I'm not saying that I like the Jaguars by any means.
No, I like the points as well. Like running offense, in being everybody's been able to move this defensive line for the Jags as well. So it seems like a pretty good option or opportunity for the Falcons offense, and they can just continue not throwing to Kyle Pitts, and Desmond Ridder can continue throwing it out of bounds when there's a dude open in the middle of the field. Because it's painful to watch Desmond Ridder play quarterback.
How about the
the other game? Dolphins Bills, you're saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm the last remaining Bills believer in the country. I haven't seen anybody be like, that they're good, because they beat the crap out of 2 bad defenses and weak offenses. Apparently, I think the Commanders showed themselves to be what they really are. Those interceptions, like a couple of them were like unforced errors, if you will. There wasn't really that much pressure on Mr. Howell. Love him as an athlete, took his over rushing, and I'll continue to do it, but not as a passer. So, but either way, my point is the Bills, I believe in them still. I think they got a bad rap.
And you would lay the points here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the flukiest win of the season is Jets over the Bills.
Yeah, I mean that loss has not aged well. Fluky or not, that loss has not aged well.
Certainly not. But I think you need to take more into consideration the moment of that game. Like all of the fire and energy is into the Jets, and even just like more of it came after their quarterback goes down.
If you're laying,
I genuinely have no idea what to think about the Bills. Like that performance against the Commanders was smothering.
they're a
Like,
bit of a bully, I feel like.
yeah, when they are against worse teams, they beat
Yeah, they're a bit of a bully.
stuffing out of
4
them.
picks.
Also,
Sam
in
Howell's
like
fault.
2 of those picks were like incredible. Like
Yeah.
that Tre'Davious White interception
Yeah.
was dirty. He not only jumped the route, but he literally like jumped over the side of the guy, caught the ball in the air,
That was nice.
completed the catch. I was like, holy crap! Like Tre'Davious White, like we know he's a good DB, but like he's had some injury issues. Like that was impressive, impressive performance. But Sam Howell also, the lights were too bright. We talked about this. I don't know if it was on this show or it was on Bankroll Blitz, but like I wasn't impressed with Eric Bieniemy's offensive play calling, and it finally caught up to them.
What did you bet Buffalo already, Josh?
Yeah. For this week? No, I thought you meant last week. I bet the crap out of them last week.
I bet
for
the
this week,
crap out of Buffalo.
for this week,
yeah.
I haven't bet them yet. But just more I'm looking at it for them at home, like I mean, if you force me to put a bet, I believe that's how you phrase the question for the Dolphins and Bills.
No,
like,
no, you don't have to bet it.
If I want action. No, I haven't bet it yet. And
Okay.
I mean, I need to
I think
about
I'd bet Dolphins.
What do you guys think about the over 53.5? Seems pretty right.
I didn't check the weather yet,
Would
but
be playing under. Weather's fine.
definitely not.
It's
Yeah,
warm.
definitely not playing under.
Yeah, I mean that's a high total, but I mean I would think that's only going to go up.
It's only going to go up. 2 teams are going to play again.
This might seem
they're going to
weird.
score, I think, each other.
I mean, just to move off for 1 sec, like and this is weird to say, but the Steelers and Texans game is really interesting to me because the Steelers are like 3-point favorites, and I'm wondering if the Texans are going to be better than we thought because CJ Stroud's going to be better than we thought, or if really that was just like we beat the Jaguars and the Jaguars suck.
I'm playing the Steelers there without a doubt.
That's what I'm
it's not a knock on CJ Stroud. I'm actually going to play him in fantasy because I think they're going to be playing from behind, but that their offensive line has so many injuries. TJ Watt and company are just going to eat that offensive line alive.
All right. Anything else for this, or you guys want to get to baseball?
Wait, let me get your thoughts. Since you're a Vikings guy, should you guys be laying 4 on the road?
Oh no, I would take Carolina if anything. I mean, Dalton hasn't been impressive. Carolina's been bad, but Minnesota plays nothing but close games. Minnesota's actually played okay. I mean, they could easily be 3-0. It's the opposite of last year where they won every close game last year, and they're giving these games back this year. I would take the points. I haven't bet it, but I would take the points.
How do we flex these Sunday night, Monday night games?
Is that is that a Sunday night game?
No, the Sunday night game is the Jets and Chiefs, which no longer has any.
Oh, yeah.
And the Monday night game is Daniel Jones versus Geno Smith.
Oof. That's another one. Why are the Giants favored over Seattle?
No idea.
Yeah, that one's weird.
Doesn't make sense to me.
No idea. Seattle on the road. They have beat the Giants on the road, but
I guess.
I'm here for baseball.
All right. We got a week left. We got some good races. Texas is taking control in the AL West. It's basically, Toronto looks like they're going to get in. I don't know if you guys have odds to make the playoffs. Basically, in the NL, I think it's coming down to Cubs, Marlins for that final spot, assuming, Philly's going to get in, assuming Arizona is going to get in, but they got a couple game lead. You guys can take it however you want. Playoffs hard today.
And the Cubs are tied.
Are they?
Yeah. Arizona and the Cubs are top. Well, they're both 82 and 74.
Why is Arizona minus 450 to make the playoffs? Oh, maybe because the Cubs have the Braves this week. Braves have a tough schedule. Yeah, they're both 82 and 74. So I was just going based on the market. That's a good point. So they're both tied there. I guess because you got an extra spot. Yeah, it's got to be schedule based. I mean, that's all it could be, and maybe 100%. Tiebreakers too.
Yeah, that was my point when we were talking about the Rangers as the team to make the playoffs out of the West. Was like they beat up on the teams that they've got left on their schedule, and they've been pretty easy. And then the Astros, shit the bed literally again. I mean, not literally, whatever. They shit the bed against the Royals. They might have. Who knows? I don't know.
People always say literally when they don't mean it.
I know.
Crazy.
I literally hate that. But yeah, no, I'm not necessarily putting any money down anymore. I'm kind of just enjoying watching it with money in a bunch of different places. But is there anything that you see value in right now?
Not really. Diamondbacks do have the tiebreaker over the Cubs, which is like, oh, it's they have the same record, but hey, tiebreakers, that's an invisible half game right there. That's huge with only 5 games to play. And man, hard to believe there's only 5 games. We play so many damn games of baseball, and it comes down to the last few. It's fun.
Yeah, it's so funny.
So wild.
What you said you had a couple plays today, Brad. What do you have?
Yeah, so I took Hunter Green over 16.5 pitching outs. I went with pitching outs instead of Ks. Not a high K team that he's playing against in the Guardians, but I'm not like overly worried about the Guardians. Getting a ton of hits on him. He's gone 6. He's on 18 pitching outs, so 6 innings in like his last 3 starts. And then the other one I took, I was gonna take Bradish. I was gonna do a parlay of Bradish over 17.5 pitching outs parlayed with Orioles, but the line moved. So like I don't want to play that for minus money. Not when I'm putting in a parlay, but like if you can find the good odds on that. My other play was Nola over. Hold on 1 second. Over 6.5 strikeouts against the Pirates. Pirates just been striking out a ton.
It's hard not to throw these Dodgers money lines against the Rockies into some parlays here, Mister.
I did that. I did that when I took each of those plays that I said. I did each of those plays that I said for 1 unit, and then I also put a half unit on each of those with like separate parlays with the Dodgers money line.
Can you just say the picks again? Mr. Get Up Skinny is wondering about the pitching props.
Yeah, the pitching props. Aaron Nola over 6.5 strikeouts. Excuse me, Aaron Nola over 6.5 strikeouts. And then Hunter Green of the Cincinnati Reds over 16.5 pitching outs.
I would be a little concerned about Nola just because Philly's clinched everything. I'd be just worried. I don't know if they're going to like load manage some of these pitchers that have clinched and they're not playing for anything. So that's something to keep in mind, not necessarily fading that. It is something to keep in mind last week of the season. Like, hey, they might lower some of these pitchers. Now, Hunter Green, it's not going to be the case because they're playing to get in the playoffs, but that is just in a general point of like, hey, keep this in mind for the last week.
Yeah, I thought about that a little bit. But the good news, like with Nola, outside of like when they played against like good batting teams, when they play against teams who strike out a lot, he gets this like by the 4th, 5th inning. So
yeah, he has some pretty low outings.
Yeah. So if his pitch count like stays where it's at, I think it'd be pretty good.
Yeah,
I agree with you. If you're gonna do it, it's with him.
Yeah.
He says he got a question on bases. Yeah. Not really my thing. I don't know if you want to ask the question, you guys.
I
do. I play bases. I play bases from the standpoint of like when I'm looking at guys and I'm like, oh, the home runs, but I'm like, let me just take the total bases. I don't really play the home runs. So when I see like a good batter pitcher matchup, then I definitely go for it.
But I didn't like any for this game, I think, because I think they were not good value. He said Dodgers game, right?
Yeah.
I'm pulling
it up. He said the day game too because they were playing a doubleheader.
Hold on, give me 1 moment. Yeah, I think the total bases were like literally like minus money. Freddie Freeman's minus 165, Max Muncy's minus 110. Like those, just like I'd probably play Rojas actually at plus 112 over 1.5. I don't hate Rojas.
He says Freddie Freeman 4 bases in the day game. Look, I don't know if the lineups are out yet, but I certainly wouldn't play under. So I have no problem going over Freddie Freeman here. It is.
Yeah, the problem is like the problem with Freddie Freeman is like you can't play his total bases over 1.5, so you have to play over
2.5. He's
2.5 or over 3.5. But then like, yeah, so then like, I don't know. I just feel like at a point you're just kind of like handcuffing yourself like to needing a good showing, like a home run or extra bases. Because if he gets 2 hits, they're both singles. Like you're kind of like I don't know how to feel. Like you're not getting great value. But if like you want to play it like I'm not stopping you. Like I'm like looking at like his numbers are great, right? Like great hard hit percentage, great expected total bases. Like we know who Freddie Freeman is, but like the value is like kind of taken away because of his numbers. So like whenever you're starting a guy at minus 160 for over 1.5 total bases, when generally most guys would be like plus 110, when you're doing 4 total bases, you're not getting nearly as much value as you should be.
Yeah, sense. Freddie's 5 for 16 against him, 1 homer, 1 double.
Steele against the Braves is an interesting matchup too.
That's tonight. A really interesting one
because the Braves hit a ton of homers and Steele doesn't give up any homers. Cubs need to win these games, so that's a fun one.
And it's even more exciting because it's Elder too. Like it's not like Elder's
Yes.
been doing like gasoline like he was at beginning of the season. So
Yeah.
So you said it's hard for you not to parlay the Braves and Dodgers money lines.
No, not the
Oh.
Braves. It's hard not to throw Dodgers money line in some parlay with,
Oh.
I don't know, some football favorite I like, or just parlay the Dodgers with the Dodgers later tonight. For some
okay,
reason,
guys,
Rivers will let
I've
me
got
do
a
it.
juicy bet, but I cannot believe this line is set here.
Go for
Bryce
it.
Elder over 1.5 walks. This dude's line is normally over 2.5, and all of a sudden it's over 1.5 in a game that's like a must win for the Cubs, or at least get something out of here. His last outing, he had 5 walks against the Phillies in only 3 innings pitched. I know against the Marlins and Pirates, he didn't have as many walks because those aren't like high walk rate teams, but that's kind of interesting. It's minus 200. So obviously, for those who think like the juice is not worth the squeeze, but I think that's pretty, like, we can hit this.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about under 6.5 Ks for greens? Like you said, Cleveland puts the ball in play a lot. Getting to 7's a lot, I feel like.
Yeah, I see. Like you have a I think you have a better way of betting than I do, like mentally. Like when I don't like a number, I just avoid it instead of playing the opposite side.
Yeah, I know. I have that. I struggle with that too. There's certain things you don't want to sit there and root for non-strikeouts. I know
Yeah,
what you
but I
mean.
think I didn't like the number, and I think that you should play the under. It's I think the under, from my logic, makes the most sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I love that that's your way of thinking, Will, because it's like this is like how you make money. So if you're every game is an opportunity, someone's gonna win and someone's gonna lose.
right.
Gotta bet the right side to make your paycheck.
To go back to the Bryce Elder thing, I totally forgot. Like I bet him over 3.5, over 2.5 walks against the Cubs last outing, and he had 3 exactly. I just
Any
had to go
weather
back
that
and
we need
check.
to? Well, it's been raining here in the East Coast past few days. Looks like it's cleared up, but you can get some of those cheap wins if you get rain out spot or
Arizona White Sox is one, but this one they think is going to be a late start as opposed to a middle of the day.
Interesting. All right. Anything else? Anything in college, Brad? What?
Yeah, I want to talk about this. That's what I texted you. I'm gonna probably play the middle here with Washington. I took Washington minus 17.5 versus Arizona. Dolores might not play. I'm leaning he's not going to play, which means the line's he is worth, for that team, I'd imagine he's worth at minimum 3 points. And then what makes it even better is once he gets announced out, the public is going to absolutely smash Washington. They're getting a lot of media hype right now. They've looked good. And I think Washington can cover either number. But if you're going to give me 5.5 middle, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take Washington and then probably take Arizona in the comeback. The guy who came in for him didn't look terrible. He went 4 for 4, 81 yards. Still kind of interesting, but that's all I got. Oh, I took Penn State. But I wouldn't like, Penn State's been a weird team this year, right? Every single game that Penn State has played so far, the line has gone in the opposite direction, and they've covered every single one of those games. I think it's hilarious, right? Like, and there's no reason to say like we're fading Penn State. I faded Penn State just because of the trends that Iowa had last against Penn State, especially in Beaver Stadium. But when we look at them against Northwestern, like Northwestern's 108th in early down success rate, which means in first and second downs, they're leaving themselves with thirds and longs. Well, Penn State is top 15 in down and distance coverages. So basically, their secondary plays better when it's third and long situations. What's actually pretty cool, I'm actually glad you asked this. It was pretty fascinating. Brent Venables went on in his interview. That's coach from Oklahoma, and he said one thing that they've seen that correlates most to a team's chances of winning or losing is early down success rate on offense and defense. And if you guys ever want to check that, like, it's super simple. Go to cfbfangraphs.com and you can literally filter by early down success rate, offense and defense. It's cfb-graphs.com, and it's literally one of the best tools. It'll make you such a better college football better, especially when you start seeing it happens. Like when you see like a drop back, offensive drop back percentage of like 64% success, watch that happen and see like, oh, they're dropping back to pass. Is it a completion or is it an incompletion? or is it more like if they're dropping back to pass in like a third and long, and they get 8 yards, that's probably a pretty successful drop back, even though they're not getting the first down. So look at small situations like that.
One thing I wanted to mention, circling back to NFL, and again, use Pickett, use our sponsor, Shop Around, have as many outs as possible. We've seen it 3 times in the past week or so, a couple of weeks, just getting the best of the number, because there was,
Oh yeah,
like, Cincy, the Rams, that line was 1 or 2. It was also 3.5. You know what? It lands right on 3. Philly, Minnesota, it was 5.5. It was 6.5. Lands right on 6. Carolina, the Saints, it's 3. It's 3.5. Lands right on 3. So, man, the debate of closing line value is tedious, and like how much closing line value matters. This is separate than closing line value, though. It's shopping. It's getting the best of the number, and there's just so many chances. There's so many opportunities, or so many instances where the game lands right on the number. So, man, you just can't emphasize enough getting the best of the numbers, shopping around, and playing good numbers, staying on top of the news.
yeah.
That was an epic cover or push, based on when you got the number last night with the Rams. You thought maybe they'll kick a field goal like they did last week, and then they're running the ball late. Their clock management is not great. McVay and his clock management is not great.
But his play calling was bad too. Like,
yeah.
How are you not chipping any of, like, helping your left tackle, like, who is clearly struggling? Like, what is going on there?
Hendrickson was blowing him up.
He was doing it early. He was doing it early. He was chipping guys, and he had. I think he had some pretty solid play calls, like at least from the script early, and then they just went away from it, and Stafford couldn't stay open. But in the beginning, there were open throws he could have made, and he didn't. And that really cost them big time towards the end. And then after that, it was just a floodgates open. So, all
right, boys, good show. Anything else?
No. Excited to talk some more sports tomorrow.
Yeah, 12 o'clock Eastern tomorrow, new time. So appreciate you guys in the chat. We'll hopefully see you tomorrow. Thank you to Pickett, Hall of Fame bets, sleeper picks, Brad, Josh. Boys, see you tomorrow. Good luck with all your plays.
Later.